Hello, everybody. Welcome to Profiling Evil Reacts. I'm Mike King, and I wanted to chat for a few minutes about the missing child case of 5-year-old Summer Wells in Tennessee. Now, according to police reports, Summer disappeared from her rural home about 18 days ago. You can go back and you can look at my previous video on this case. But as law enforcement and search and rescue personnel scour the rugged countryside around her home, I just been thinking a lot about how many people are pointing fingers at the parents and registered sex offenders in the community. I hope that you'll take a moment, hit the like and the subscribe buttons on your screen, ring the bell so that you receive all the notifications and other videos that we do like this one. Well, yesterday in headline news, Fox News reported that both Summer's parents have criminal records. I assume the headline calling out their criminal histories was created in order to get more attention, but I really worry that it taints our perception in this case. Here's what folks are basing their suspicions on right now. Number one, that Don Wells, Summer's father, had felony convictions on his record for drug and burglary offenses. Those charges ran in the 1990s and early 2000s. Now, when questioned about his past, Don just simply responded, it's in the past. I found God in prison. I started studying the Bible intently because I wanted to change. Well, change has been hard. And if you remember, he was arrested last October in a domestic violence case, charged by his wife, Candace Bly, accusing him again of domestic violence. In her sworn statement, Candace said that Don's behavior was out of control. He drinks and throws things. I'm afraid of being hurt. He's abusive physically and mentally toward me. I'm afraid for my children and myself. My mother fears he's going to hurt her because she's staying on the camper on our property. Well, Bly recanted this later, and the domestic violence charge was dropped. Now, there are a lot of reasons that could have happened. It could have been because it was untrue. It could have been that they reconciled. It could have been that she needs the financial support he gives, and so she's willing to put up with a little bit. But either way, that part of the case was dropped. But he still was convicted of public intoxication and possession of a weapon by a restricted person. Now, Candace Bly has also had brushes with the law for domestic violence, disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, some narcotic violations. And I guess here's the question I've got. Does any of this have a bearing on Summer's disappearance? I personally believe there are too many variables that need to be vetted before we start theorizing on this line of thinking. And it kind of bothers me that we immediately go to that. Now, while there's a reference that Candace once stated that she was afraid for herself and her children in the domestic violence call, the story again was recanted. There have been no other calls for service by police of domestic violence or child abuse or neglect or anything else at that location that's publicly been made known. Law enforcement reported that Don Wells called 911 after Candace told him that Summer was missing. Remember, that's important because he wasn't at home. She was the one there at home with the child. He was en route from work when he called 911. I think there's a lot of speculation going on regarding Summer's aunt, Rose Bly's disappearance. This girl disappeared in 2009 after leaving her residence in Wisconsin for a short 5-mile drive. Her car would later be discovered some 30 miles away in a long-haul truck parking area. This is such a tragedy, but it seems completely unconnected, and I guess I wonder why we keep bringing it up. But imagine the heartache and the pain that the disappearance of Summer has added now to this family dynamic, who has another missing person in the family. Again, completely different victimologies between the two people. I don't think they're in any way related. Now, there's an awful lot of speculation regarding this 12-minute interview that Don and Candace did with the press. We have to be so careful, folks, that we don't form opinions on a recording too quickly. I don't know, and I don't believe that you know Don and Candace well enough to speculate what they're saying. I mean, I've heard folks judging this tape using words like he said was instead of is, or there are experts out there who are analyzing this verbal exchange to determine whether there are deceptive markers or not. Now, we all might have our own opinions, and we should have our own opinions, but we should keep those and not judge openly. I hope that we can patiently wait while the professionals dissect each remark. I actually think, when I think of situations like this, of my mentor's words as I was learning how to be a profiler. We were preparing to interview a serial killer, and I had leaned on a strategy that I'd successfully used several times before. And I showed it to him, and he simply said in a very wise way, "He who is good with a hammer thinks everything is a nail." His message was clear. Every case, every interview, every element of every crime is unique, and a unique approach is needed on each case to get the most positive results. So anyway, let's listen to this video a little bit. Let's take a moment and listen to a few key parts of Don and Candace Bly-Wells' interview. Now, I apologize that I don't know who the original author of this clip is. I think it's News 11, but it's been copied and redistributed on YouTube a bunch of times, and I just can't find the original owner to credit. But first, I want to remind you who this little blonde-haired, blue-eyed 5-year-old is. She was like most little girls who dreamed of being a princess. She loved to dance with her daddy, and she was also strong-willed enough to compete with her brothers. She had a strong personality. You hear me? I'm actually talking in past tense instead of saying she has a strong personality. Doesn't mean I believe she's gone or living. This is what's so important about what I was trying to say. She does what many children do. She even tried to cut her own hair and mimic her mother's hairstyle. When it didn't turn out like she'd hoped, her parents cut her hair back like her brothers as part of a summer cut. Well, let's listen to Summer's mom and dad as they talk about this little tyke's personality.
She loves to dance. She would always want me. She says, "Daddy, hold my hand so I can twirl." And she would just like to twirl and twirl and twirl until my arm got tired, But I put out there that one of Summer's favorite songs was Godzilla, and they say, and they're jumping all over me about past tense was, well, I'm sorry about that. It's just.
She also liked the song by New Breed. It was called House, My House. She sung that a lot of times when I play it on the TV. She loved to dance.
She liked to think of herself as a princess, and and all that, like all young girls do. And
she loved Frozen. She loved to be that Elsa, and
I think she really loved to be in church because she felt a lot of love there. And I think you can't explain what that love is, but you feel it and you know it, when you're young. And she felt that there, and she loved everybody in that church. Or she loves everybody in that church. I should rephrase that, because they'll tear that apart as past tense, and I apologize again for that. I hope she gets to come home, and I hope she'd give them a run for their money every day. She'd give them a run for their money. And there was times, we'd be, at our boys, like, don't do this and don't do that. And next thing you know, a stick would come up and just whop them, and it'd be like, Summer, don't do that.
Summer was the boss of the family.
She typical girl.
When they get out of line, she'd put them in line.
She'd do her best.
She loved to play in the mud and the water and swing on her swing and enjoy dirt.
When I run the lawnmower around, she would run behind me. When the boys run their bikes around, she, as fast as that little bike could go, she would be behind them running and keeping up with them, no problem. She loved to run. She just loved to run, and she could pull herself up on that swing, her full body weight with her two hands, and she could do that. None of the other boys can do that, but she can.
Was she in school yet?
No,
No.
she's going this year.
This was supposed to be her first year of
She's
kindergarten.
we did all the, what?
I took care of everything.
Yeah.
I had her already taken all of her shots and registered in the school ready for this year.
I just never expected for anyone to get a hold of my heart like she has, because I try to guard my heart as much as I can, but she holds my heart in her little hands, and I love her with all my heart. I mean, I'd do anything to have her back.
Candace describes the circumstances around Summer's disappearance in a minute here. She introduces some interesting things to me that add some credibility to her stories, such as, quote, she got a piece of candy from grandma, close quote. Or she also talks about asking her sons about Summer's location. These are the kinds of things that Candace could be impeached by, quite frankly, if she made them up. And police are undoubtedly interviewing the boys as well as every family member, looking for inconsistencies in their stories. I personally have been relying upon the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations and the sheriff at the press conferences where they've indicated that the family has been cooperative. Now, does that mean they're deceptive? That's a question, I guess, for another day. I thought it's interesting, too, how Candace concludes her comment, she was just gone. Let's watch.
And my mother and her were planting flowers. And we went in after we got done washing our hands, and she got a piece of candy from grandma, and she wanted to go back over and see her brothers. And I said, okay. And I walked her all the way over to the porch, and I watched her walk into the kitchen where the boys were watching TV. And I told the boys, I said, watch Summer, I'll be back. And within 2 minutes I came back. And I asked the boys where their sister was, and they said, she went downstairs, Mom, to play with her toys in the playroom. I said, okay. And I yelled downstairs for her a couple times, and I didn't get no answer, which was unusual because usually she always answers me. And so I went down there to check, and she was nowhere in sight.
My personal opinion is that Candace and Dawn are pretty simple folk. They probably don't have much of an education, and they certainly are not articulate when they speak. Looking online, it looks like they live in a home that's valued at about $10,000. They probably rely upon public assistance to help make ends meet. This family looks like it's a victim of poverty, whether thrown upon them because of circumstances they couldn't control or because of their own devices. I've talked to a lot of people in this kind of circumstance, and I don't hear anything that really makes me think that they murdered Summer. Now, could they have murdered their child and made up all of this to keep from being held responsible? Absolutely. But many people in this kind of circumstance have learned to just accept life's bumps and bruises. Loss, death, and disappointment is just part of their reality. Now, again, this is my opinion, and I want to keep reminding myself that I just flat don't know this family. I do not know how they talk or rationalize things in normal circumstances. I don't know whether they are victims of life or people who change something that's not acceptable. If I don't know these things, how can I possibly, or how can we possibly judge them with such limited knowledge? This is why I think it's so important that we trust the process. We trust the professionals. We trust the people who have the authority to investigate these crimes. Now, like you, I was troubled when Don indicated that he was confident from the first moment that Summer had been abducted. But what is he not saying that suggests that she was abducted? Let's take a moment and listen to this clip.
Well, I knew right away that she was abducted. You know, I knew that right away, and that's what I told them from the beginning. But they have to go through their, I forget the word.
Investigation.
We have to do one step at a time, I guess, but I'm sorry that they had to spend so many man hours in these woods and everything. I've seen them limping and everything else, you know, and I feel for them. But
In that segment, Don and Candace spoke about a possible witness who was in the area in a red truck. Law enforcement spoke about a red truck and clarified that they think the driver may have seen something.
so we don't know anything about, you know, no red truck, or we hardly know many of our neighbors. I mean, because we just try to be around good people. I mean, and we do have good people in this area. We found out since this has all happened. We got some real good neighbors and good folks everywhere. But
The most important thing is to bring Summer home safe.
In that segment, Don and Candace spoke about a possible witness who was in the area in a red truck. Law enforcement spoke about the red truck and they clarified that they think the driver may have seen something. I looked at the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation's website for registered sex offenders and I found 4 who drive red trucks. Now, I believe the initial report was for a Toyota Tacoma. It probably doesn't mean anything in this particular case, but shows the power of mapping data and examining geographically information against things that we already know. Well, by going one step further, we can begin to theorize on what the most probable route is that someone would have driven to get from the Wells residence to the location where the vehicle is registered. Again, it's just another investigative lead. Well, I keep going back to the incredible effort the sheriff, the state, and search and rescue have put into recovering Summer. If they believe she was abducted and taken from the area, I'm having a hard time believing they would continue to search around the home like they had. It could be that they do suspect foul play and they want to clear the immediate area where she could have been potentially disposed of. But again, that's speculation. Thinking of how simple Summer's parents seemed to me, I found their statements about the possibilities to be really heartbreaking. Let's listen in.
Your little girl.
if there's any way, if you can find it in your heart to please release her somehow. I don't know how you might do that. I mean, 'cause you're probably scared of going to prison for the rest of your life and everything else, I'm sure. But please find it in your heart, have mercy, and find a way of letting her go and where we can get her back. And just please have mercy on her and, you know, and us and her brothers. And she's such a loving, good spirit. Please don't hurt her, please.
Here's my question for you. Do you think there are subliminal messages being uttered in the statements by Summer's mother and father? I mean, what would you do if you were the sheriff and you had to decide to keep on searching the area for a missing child or dedicate your efforts toward a criminal investigation? I'm looking forward to reading your thoughts down below. These are terribly tough cases that don't usually have happy endings either way. So if you have any credible information about the disappearance of Summer Wells, please contact investigators at 1-800-TBI-FIND. And please hit the like and the subscribe button. Ring the bell. That way you're going to get notified of videos like this one. Thanks so much for your support of Profiling Evil. We'll see you soon at the next crime scene.